Welcome everybody, fantastic to see such good attendance at our, I think this is the third staff conference that I've certainly been involved in, Engage 2018. A couple of practical things first. If you're new here, a special welcome if this is your first conference. I'm Claire Taylor, I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor. If you are new, please do come and say hello to me. I'd love to meet you, and I'll be around all day today and all day tomorrow, and very happy to have a chat. I'd like to, first of all, do a massive thank you, because we never get a chance to do this later on in the conference, so it's a little bit back to front. But I want to say a huge thank you to Anne Scar-Jones, who is lurking at the back there, who really is the mastermind behind this two-day event. So could we show our appreciation, please? Very nice curtsy, Anne. And if you are part of the Twitterati, then it is #WGU Engage 2018. Please do engage online as well as obviously in face-to-face conversations. That would be great. A couple of changes which I think have been circulated, but just in case you've missed them, a couple of room changes. At 11:15 today, the Welsh session is in B07. And at 12:15 today, the timetabling session is in here. Because there are so many of you who want to find out about timetabling, we've had to move it to a much bigger venue. Okay, let's move on. So what I want to talk about this morning is really a quick reflect back on what we've been doing over the past year, particularly in relation to teaching and learning, and then a bit of a heads up in terms of key priorities going forwards. But the thread that I really want to bring out as I go through my talk is the idea of working together and collaborating, and the idea that really when two heads get together, it's much better than one, and when more than two heads get together, it's even better still in terms of getting things done. We've had some fantastic examples of collaboration across departments, across the new faculties already, and it'd be great to see that continuing. So just to get the grey cells going a little bit, I've got a little bit of an activity for you to do. Now listen very carefully and follow the instructions. Firstly, this activity is for you by yourself. You can't ask for help. And I'm watching. So here's the word collaboration. You need a pen and a piece of paper or a phone or something to jot a few things down, or a very good memory. Get yourself organised. If you haven't got any of those things, you'll just have to bask in reflected glory or something. Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and this is an activity for you by yourself. 30 seconds to make as many words as you can from the word collaboration. Off you go. You shouldn't be talking. Oh no, that has gone quiet. You've got about 20 seconds left. Oh, I can't stop it. Hang on a minute. Okay, stop. Who got 10? Who got 15? Oh, who got 20? Oh, not bad, not bad. Okay, this time you can pool your resources, combine what you've got with the person next to you, and then I'll give you another 20 seconds to see how many more you can get. Okay, off you go. Okay, that's it. Stop, 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 stop. You can always carry this on later if you're desperate to. Okay, put your hand up if you got a better result that time than you did the first time round. Okay. All right. Okay, now the two of you need to find another pair, so you might need to just turn around, or you might even have to get up. You've got 10 seconds to do the same exercise. 10 seconds, off you go. Okay, that's it, that's it. Stop, stop. Who got a better result with 4 than they did with 2? Okay. Are you getting the idea? Okay, is my point kind of going home a little bit? So think about how we can get more out of working together. This is something that I'd like you just to keep at the forefront of your mind as I go through my presentation. Okay, so one of the things I just want to flag up at the beginning is our new faculty structures. This is a tremendous opportunity for collaboration cross-university, cross-discipline. We now have structures which mirror each other. And I just want to flag up a couple of pictures, just in case you're not sure. I'm really sorry, Caroline, is Caroline here? She's got cut off a little bit there. Sorry, Caroline. There's something wrong with the projector. So if you're not sure who's who in the faculty in terms of the academic leadership, these are the key players. And my apologies to Mel, who I didn't manage to get a picture of. You're probably quite happy about that. So Mel's our Faculty Business Manager in Social and Life Sciences. Have a quick look at those mugshots, memorise them. These are important people, and I'll be referring to these roles as I go through. And obviously we'll continue to circulate information about the faculty structures. Here we have the Faculty of Art, Science and Technology. We do have a vacancy currently for Associate Dean Research, and we'll be making an announcement about that in the coming weeks. So really delighted that we got this up and running. We're already seeing really good cross-faculty working in terms of associate deans with the similar sorts of roles being able to work across with each other and move some of our strategic challenges forwards. And really, this is all about getting more out of working together. The me and you making the us, this idea of the benefits of collective wisdom and partnership working, which you've heard me talk about before, so I'm not going to apologise for it. I'm going to keep on going on about it until we get a little bit better at it. Okay, so in terms of what I want to mainly cover this morning, I want to do a very quick canter through our strategy for supporting student learning and achievement. This is a summary of what we produced last year. We've done some updates for this year and I'll take you through them. But just a reminder of the key strands there. So we have the curriculum, we have teaching, we have assessment, we have personalised support, and we have students as partners. And we have a whole shed load of KPIs which help us to monitor progress there. I'm going to go through each of those strands in turn and just do a little bit of a kind of overview of kind of what we've achieved, where we're going, and what our targets are going forwards. So in terms of the curriculum, we really want to have even more of a big push on employability over the coming year. We've done really well in terms of making sure that our curriculum is aligned to regional needs. So you can see up there the percentage of courses aligned to the North Wales Economic Ambition Board Regional Skills Plan. A little bit of incremental growth there. We're probably just about at a bit of a ceiling, I would have thought. Might be a little bit of work there. But you'll see in bold as we go through, I've put the kind of target areas where it'd be great to see us over the coming year. We want to carry on looking at credit-bearing work-related learning as a part of every offer that we have on the books, and that's going to be a really important part of our work with the employability strategy over the coming year. And you'll see there some new targets that we're bringing in where we need to actually establish a baseline. We haven't done a lot of work around entrepreneurship with our students. We've stalled a little bit with our industry advisory panels. The environmental and sustainable development agenda is very important to us, and we need to start embedding that within the curriculum. And also something new, we've revised the Glyndwr graduate outcomes, and we'll be rolling out a kind of new version of that over the coming weeks and months. And just to give you a little bit of a sneak preview, this is the sort of idea that we're looking at. Attributes, attitudes and skill sets in terms of the sorts of outcomes that we'd like our students to really engage with. And we'll be working with colleagues over the coming weeks and months to look at how we map that against our curriculum. A lot of this is already going on. A lot of this isn't new, but we haven't been very good at foregrounding it, and we haven't been very good at communicating it with our students and things like our marketing material, so that we really tell a good story around what the experience at Glyndwr will actually bring in terms of outcomes. Just a little bit more on employability. So with each of these slides, I've got a couple which say more on. These are the kind of key things that you need to know about, really. You may or may not be aware that the DELI, the Destination of Leavers in Higher Education survey, is no more. It's gone. We've had our last one. It's been replaced by the Graduate Outcomes Survey, which does present some challenges for us because it will actually be collecting data 15 months after students have completed their studies, so which means we have to keep in touch with our students. Now, we've already got some plans together, strategic planning and working closely with careers. We're thinking about how we can keep in touch with our alumni, and key players here will be our Associate Deans for Enterprise Partnerships and Employability across the two faculties. So no pressure, Maddie and John. There's a lot of work to do here in terms of making sure we've got a coherent approach to keeping in touch with our students and getting some good data around student employability. In terms of teaching, we're doing really well in terms of percentage of staff who hold a teaching qualification or professional recognition. We were just over 60% the previous year. We nearly hit our target of 70% this year. It was 69, but let's say it's 70. We'll round up. So we're kind of trying to move on with that. So, I'd really encourage you, if you've not yet looked at Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy, talk to Sue Horder, who's Associate Dean in SLS for Academic Affairs. She's also running our postgraduate Cert H, what's it called? PGC, Professional Development. Great. So that's your higher education qualification as well, and that's all linked in with fellowship. So there's various routes in which you can achieve that. Talk to Sue if you'd like to do that. We're seeing much more engagement with our staff development offer, and that's why we send around a signing in list, so we can capture engagement and we can keep a record of how you've engaged with CPD. So in terms of our academic engagement, seeing much higher levels there, which is great. Peer observation of teaching. We've just approved a new policy at Academic Board. It's been a little while in gestation, I have to say. There's been a lot of people involved in developing this, and we had confirmation from the union, from UCU over the summer, that they were happy for us to roll this out. So your Associate Dean in the Faculties for Academic Affairs will be heading that up, and we'll be looking to engage all of our academic staff in peer observation of teaching over the coming year. Research tells us that if you talk about teaching, you get better at it. It's that kind of dialogic, reflective process. I'm really, really pleased that we got that formalised. We've got some good resources there to help record, and I look forward to hearing how people are engaging with that. And then NSS satisfaction with teaching on my course. I hope you can see at the very bottom there. Been a little bit of a dip in the past year or so. But we know where those areas are, and we're looking to raise our game over the coming year. Just a little bit more on the NSS. You're probably aware that unfortunately we did dip below 80% for overall satisfaction as an institution this year, which is extremely disappointing. We deserve better than that, and I know we're better than that. We haven't made, well, clearly we haven't made a big thing about it, but what we have been doing is we've been looking in detail at the data, and Associate Deans for Student Engagement have been looking in detail as well at the data and also the student comments to work out, where can we raise our game. What we do know is that this dip in overall satisfaction can be isolated to a handful of courses. And it's really important that we all work together to help each other to make sure that we get the kind of benchmark up for across the university as far as we can. So, a real focus on that. Where we are doing well is with assessment and feedback. Yay! Which is great. And we've had quite a lot of work going on around assessment and feedback over the past year and over the coming year. However, it would be even better if we managed to get feedback to students within the 15 days required turnaround time. That is dragging us down because the percentage satisfaction with the other 3 questions in the assessment and feedback area of NSS are up in the late 70s, early 80%. The question which says I get timely feedback on my work is in the sort of mid to late 60s. Okay, and that's dragging the whole thing down. So please, 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 if we're telling our students that they're going to get their work back in 3 weeks, then they need to get it back in 3 weeks. It's really, really important. What is absolutely fantastic is that across 4 course areas, we had 100% overall satisfaction. They know who they are. And across another 5 courses, over 90%, which is brilliant. And that just shows what can be achieved, again, when people are working together. We've identified those courses at faculty level, and best practice will be shared in terms of how they're getting those really good results. Moving on to assessment. So I say assessment and feedback in the NSS isn't too bad. It'd be great to see us really leading the way, leading the sector in that area. And we're really starting to look at how we can improve e-assessment and e-feedback, and that includes online submission. Students have told us they want this. It makes things more accessible for them, it's more flexible, it's actually better in terms of things like keeping tabs on pieces of work, GDPR, etc., etc., etc. So we are going to move forwards with online submission across the board. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. As well as online submission, Jane Richardson and the Assessment and Feedback Group have been doing a lot of work around inclusive assessment, accessible assessment, real-world assessment, looking at feedback, different ways of feeding back, not just written feedback, but oral feedback. We've seen examples of video feedback as well. And also looking at assessment criteria and marking criteria and seeing again if we can be a bit more consistent across the board. And I know that Jane and Jess and Emily are running one of the workshops over the next couple of days around that. So do talk to them if you want to find out more. On online submission, academic boards approved a change to the regulations just last week. This is what it says. I'm sure you'll go away and rush away and dig them out now. So we're saying that for coursework, the submission via the VLE will be the default option. If there is, if there needs to be an alternative, then that has to be discussed with the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. So that would be Jane Richardson or Sue Horder. We think that this will iron out all sorts of issues but that we've been getting from students in particular. And certainly discussions with staff have, from my point of view, have told me that the vast majority of staff are very happy about this direction of travel. We know that some of you will need some support with this, and we've got things set up to help you. So, please don't be frightened. There'll be plenty of support, but it'd be great to see this happening. So that's coming through now, coming to a course near you. Moving on to personalised support. The attendance and monitoring system, which you'll hear more about if you're going to the timetabling session later on, it's incredibly important that we use this, basically. We have to use it. And I'll come back to that in a moment. We've had around half of academic members of staff using it over the past year, but it's been very irregular, which really isn't good enough. This is our way of gathering data about attendance, starting to identify students who may be at risk of dropping out, and it is a requirement for the students who hold visas as well. NSS satisfaction with academic support did dip this year, but we can raise our game because, again, we know some of the areas where that has been problematic. Retention interventions for students identified as at risk of dropping out. This is an important piece of work that we want to move forwards. So in terms of retention, during the academic year 16-17, you'll remember we made really good progress in terms of retention rates. It's plateaued a little bit over the past year. We're not sure yet exactly what our retention for the past year has been, but we think it's probably around the 13% mark. What I'd like to see over the coming year is a retention rate of 11%. I think that's achievable as we start, again, as we work together to look at how we can spot students early who might be at risk of dropping out and get those early interventions in place. I'll put the level 3 retention rates there as well. This is difficult for us. We traditionally have high levels of dropout at level 3, and bearing in mind that our intake next week, just over a quarter of those students will be foundation year students coming into the foundation year. We have to be better at making sure that we retain those students and that they progress on to level 4. So an ambitious target there of 15% retention for our foundation year students. Again, I think we can achieve that. How are we going to do that? Well, we've already started to do more analysis in terms of looking at, historically, who is at risk of dropping out. They tend to be foundation year students, repeat year students, students doing resits, students with a record of not turning up, which is why attendance monitoring is so important, and mature students, but particularly, I think it's men over 36. I know that sounds very specific, but it's just the way the age boundaries go. So I wouldn't have thought any of that is particularly a surprise to you. If someone is doing a resit, they're a vulnerable student. If someone is doing a repeat year, they're a vulnerable student. We know our foundation year students are vulnerable students. Module tutors, personal tutors, and faculty business managers are key players here. We need to be better at getting that flow of information, particularly through from SPC into the faculty, tipping off personal tutors that there might be an issue so that we can start to take action. And it goes without saying that early intervention is essential. I wouldn't wait until you haven't seen a student for 3 or 4 weeks. I'd be trying to contact a student immediately if they've missed something. And this means we need to know our students, don't we? We need to know their individual circumstances. So within the faculty, there'll be a lot of activity going on around supporting student retention. Okay, students as partners. We have lots of initiatives around the place in terms of collecting student feedback. We have the NSS, we have student voice forums, but we need more immediacy and we need much better engagement with students' evaluation of modules over the coming year. Over the past year, really disappointing 15% of modules returned to SEM. Only 15%. Don't know why. I don't really understand why that's so difficult. I know we've had a little bit of feedback from students around some uncertainty around it, but we're trying to sort that out. This is an opportunity to get feedback in the first few weeks around what might be worrying students, and then we can fix it, and then it doesn't become a great big problem that then comes through in things like NSS later on. So we are rolling out a piece of work in collaboration with the Students' Union. Colin Heron is leading on that, where we're hoping to get much better engagement from students with that. But of course, we need your help with it. We're doing a lot better in terms of programme validation events and coverage by students, which is great. So students engaging in our quality processes. So that's good news. But in terms of the SEMS, there's a little bit more to do. There have been communications to you already, but the early identification of any issues is absolutely crucial. So it's the 2-point SEM process that is important. As we say up here, we expect the first SEM activity to take place around the 3rd week of teaching. Okay? If you've got any questions about that, there will be some FAQs being circulated shortly. Yes, Colin's nodding, excellent. And if you've got any worries, any questions, there'll be an email address on there that you can contact to get more information. But talk to Colin and talk to Caroline as well, Associate Deans for Student Engagement, who've been heading up this piece of work. So overall, a lot's been achieved. Hopefully that's encouraging, some of that news. There's no doubt it's a product of collaboration, working together, teamwork, exchange of ideas, but just think how much more we could do if we really, really get to grips with some of this stuff and really, really start to work together. And perhaps get out of our comfort zones a little bit. Walk across the corridor and go and talk to someone, shock horror, maybe in a different subject area or a different faculty that you've never met before. Go and explore places across the university that you never even knew existed. I found some even the other day, and I've been here 2 years. I'd really encourage you to get out, talk, use the cafe areas, meet up. Really, really important. So in terms of getting involved, what can you do? We can achieve so much more if we work together. Just think back to your little exercise at 9:30 this morning where you were struggling to get a few words out of collaboration, and then suddenly the floodgates were opened. So these are the sorts of things you can do. Conversations with colleagues. This is really easy. Everybody can have a chat. You managed to do that this morning, so you prove that you've got plenty to talk about. Conversations with colleagues. Talk about teaching. Talk about learning. The peer observation and teaching scheme is a brilliant opportunity to do that in a slightly more structured way. Come to our learning lunches. Learn what other people are doing. We're going to be running those again on the first Friday of every month. And because we've got too much content to put into 10 or 11 Fridays, we're also slotting in some Wednesday lunchtimes as well. So look out for those. We'll get details out shortly. You may be involved in more formal mechanisms like committees, formal meetings, working groups, etc. That's not for everybody. I totally get that. Some of you will be sitting there thinking, there's no way I'm going anywhere near that. But if an opportunity does come up, why not put your name forward? Why not have a go? It is a chance to influence, to be part of change, to be part of the decision-making process. We're always looking for people to be involved in programme validation and revalidation. On the panels, chairing panels. This is a brilliant way of basically snooping around and finding out what other people are doing with their programmes. Anybody is also welcome to come along to SHAPE, which is held normally on around about the first week of each month, sometimes on a Wednesday, sometimes on a Thursday, I think. That's our supporting a holistic approach to programme enhancement, where we see the initial ideas around new programme development. So come along and sit in if you want to. That's perfectly okay. I do need to tell you that we have our Quality Assurance Agency Quality Enhancement Review coming in March over the coming year. Hopefully most of you have kind of picked that up. We've got a sort of small group of people doing some of the heavy lifting at the moment around that, but we will be drawing in more people into that process over the coming weeks and months. There'll be a short one-day visit in February, and then there'll be a longer 3 to 4 day visit with a panel of 4 reviewers, including a student reviewer in March, and I can't remember the week it is. Jane or someone? Lynn? 11th. 11th, I should know that, shouldn't I? I'll just cancel my holiday. No, it's everybody should have cancelled their holiday. The week of the 11th of March. We're really confident we're going to get a good review here. We've got lots of really good things to talk about. We've got a very systematic approach now, I think, to enhancement. It's a thread all the way through our main strategies. And actually, I'm bizarrely, and this sounds really perverse, I'm quite looking forward to it because, it's about time that we were able to talk confidently with external agencies about what we're doing. I'll be holding my academic forums this year as well. Remember, they're normally about 3 times a year. Come along, hear what's going on, ask me questions, contribute to staff conferences. And also, we ran over the past year our academic development team and our academic development team associates network. We've had around 22 people involved in that over the past year who've been really important in moving some of the projects forwards. And that might be something that you're interested in. We'll be putting out another call in campus talk today. Is it going out today? If you're interested in doing that, talk to various people about it. And this has gathered quite a bit of interest across the sector. So Advance HE, or the Leadership Foundation bit of which is now part of Advance HE, actually commissioned us to do a short film which talks about the academic development team and the associates network and how it's a vehicle for change across the university. And I'm just going to show you an edited version of the film. This is about 10-12 minutes long. The full film is nearly 20 minutes. But we'll make sure we circulate links to it. I'm just going to show that to you now. So it's about 10 minutes long.
In 2016, a new approach to the leadership of learning and teaching was introduced by Wrexham Glyndwr University. The university had originally adopted a centralised approach to leadership of learning and teaching, and although this was successful, a new management team was formed which began to question the responsiveness of the centralised methodology with regards to innovation and change. The work of John Cotter suggested that the performance of hierarchical centralised management structures could be improved by the creation of informal networks operating in parallel within the organisation. Project lead Professor Claire Taylor explains the impetus behind the creation of a dual operating system and describes the importance of the key elements that have enabled the project at Glyndwr to progress effectively.
So we established our distributed approach to educational development work here at Wrexham Glyndwr University in September 2016. Previously, there had been a central educational development unit, which is a traditional way of dealing with educational development across higher education, but that had been closed 2 years previously. And really, we had an opportunity to do something different. And we wanted to do something that would really enable us to respond in a more energetic and agile way and creative way to the demands across the higher education sector for increased focus on teaching excellence, on teaching quality and on enhancement activity. So in September 2016 we established a core academic development team, and we supplemented that in September 2017 with a network of academic development team associates who come from across the university, from across different departments, both professional support services and across academic discipline areas. So the team works in a kind of networked way, and we follow the principles of John Cotter's dual operating system. This is where an agile network of change agents works alongside the more traditional management hierarchy. This means that the management can get on with business as usual, and the agile network can really focus on change projects, can think about different and innovative and creative ways to approach teaching and learning enhancement and change. And we're really starting to see traction across a range of projects. For example, we've been looking at assessment and feedback across the university. We've been working on our peer observation of teaching scheme. We've been supporting staff with our higher education academy applications, and we've also been really moving forwards with our approaches to technology enhanced learning. And as I said, a key feature of this is that our associates work across disciplines, working with each other across discipline and curriculum boundaries. And that means that we get some interesting mix of ideas, mix of approaches, rather than the siloed approach that can sometimes get in the way of creativity and get in the way of thinking outside of the box, if you like. So we're very pleased with how the approach is going so far.
As highlighted by Professor Taylor, Cotter's work provides the main principle of operation for the academic development team's activities. Cotter believes that most large organisations evolve hierarchical management structures because they are a necessity to make an organisation work. He also believes that in order to get the best performance and harness innovation, organisations need to accelerate their processes. He advises that this can be achieved by embracing innovation, improving productivity, introducing strategic change, nurturing cultural change, creating profitable growth, However, he also warns that factors inherently residing inside the hierarchical structure could slow down the acceleration of progress due to limited numbers of leaders of change, silo mentalities, complacency and fear of change, pressures to meet existing targets, restrictive rules and procedures. The structure that Cotter suggests as a solution to this stalling of acceleration breaks away from the standard hierarchical model and is represented as a distributed network. It complements and coexists with the hierarchical traditional management structure, offering accelerated gains in agility and productivity. In short, the result is a dual operating system. Further explanation of how this works in practice is supplied by the Academic Development Team core members.
The expansion of the ADT team to include associates was a key strategy to accelerate the adoption and urgency for innovation. It aligns to Cotter's theory of a guiding coalition who champion change in a distributed network. The recruitment process for the associate roles requested volunteers who'd be prepared to take on institutional roles on projects that would be in addition to the usual work. This was a new approach to the usual mechanisms for change that would generally involve the appointments of small numbers of managers tasked with overseeing change as a function of their new roles. Cotter argues that this can be counterproductive and that it's more productive to appoint people who have a want-to rather than a have-to philosophy. In other words, volunteers.
So the distributed model does not in itself guarantee success. It's quite a complex set of arrangements involving staff across the university from academic departments, operational departments, the student union and student union representatives. In our experience, there have been a number of factors which have enabled successful delivery. These are clear alignment between the projects that we're undertaking with the strategic goals of the university. Another key factor has been the role played by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, who has given visible leadership to the project. She's championed the project, raised its profile and consolidated the model through attendance at learning lunches, academic forums and staff conferences.
Over the past year, the Academic Development Team, through a distributed approach, has led a number of project streams aimed at enhancing learning, teaching and assessment across the university. Along with the Academic Development Team associates, these project teams have seen some early successes. The Assessment and Feedback Group has gathered significant information about the way in which we currently assess and give feedback to our learners. As a result, this group will be sharing their findings and will make recommendations to our Learning Teaching Quality Committee and Academic Board that will enhance the way in which we assess and give feedback going forward. Assessment has also been the focus of a series of monthly learning lunches, and these have been popular with both academic staff and support services. A peer observation of teaching policy has also been developed by another project stream. This is designed to engage staff in sharing good practice and supporting the enhancement of the quality of learning and teaching through collaborative and dialogic discussions amongst peers.
So those were the thoughts of the Academic Development Team core members. But did our associates perceive the project in the same way? Firstly, the barriers.
Difficulties in terms of the taking on an extra role, even though of course it was very, very part-time. I described the academic calendar as a production line divided into 52 rotations, which is each year, and we can't put a spanner in it. It has to keep going. That's the critical issue, that often really taking on an additional task means that you stay later or arrive earlier because the day job is already full. And I think you either accept that you're going to do that or not take the role on.
The main thing is time, is just making sure that we allocate a specific amount of time for meetings and making sure that we've just got the time to just be there for when we need to actually implement each job or task that we've been allocated.
The challenges to being an ADT associate are predominantly time-based, I would imagine, and the fact that we have full working loads and this is an additional role. So it's about finding time and managing your diary really effectively to make sure you can make it to the meetings, but also put in like a little bit of the research, a little bit of the work that's required to take this work forward.
It's difficult to get us all in one place at the same time, to come back and feed back what we've all been finding out, and to be able to make decisions together. There are ways around that, of course. We've been using the VLE. We've got a site on there where we can share information, and Jane usually posts minutes on there from meetings, so if you've missed, you can have a look, and we've got discussion forum and that kind of thing.
Time and role ambiguity was definitely a factor, but what about the positive aspects?
The factors that helped me take this role up was that I had support from my manager and head of school. Initially, the head of school was a bit worried that it would take too much time out of my everyday work, but once we got clarification from the Deputy Vice-Chancellor that it was part of my role that I work with, then it was fine. So I think the support of the manager and your head is really important in being able to take up this role.
The factors that helped me undertake the associate role, mainly was that it wasn't too heavy an additional workload. So it was a series of informal meetings where I took current policies and current work practices and discussed them with other staff members from different schools. So it didn't feel particularly like it was additional work. It felt like I was learning something.
I think the fact that everybody who's working in the associate's role is really supportive, really open. They are people that you can just go and knock on the door or give them a call and say, I've been thinking about this, I've been looking at this, and they're always really happy to chat those ideas through with you.
More importantly, what did the associates gain from the project?
I would say from being an associate, it's the connection with different people that's the main gain. So it's been really positive and great to work on a project, and we will see the outcomes of that as we change the regs because it's still fluid at the moment. But I've attended learning lunches as a result of being involved, and people who were on our project were giving those learning lunches. Also, it's given me the opportunity to actually find out who different people in the organisation are and what their role is, and then go and see them separately about my work. And I think we're making some positive changes in our area as a result of the connections we've made, which will have an impact on students.
A lot of experience I've gained, and a lot of knowledge in the way that other areas and disciplines work, which I didn't know previously. And I think that's really helped me to understand students' points of views as well. So if there are any sort of areas that maybe are negative for students, I can kind of see why, because it's so different from what I've experienced, which is so positive. So it's nice to be able to see both sides, and gain more experience through that.
As demonstrated in this short film, the approach suggested by Cotter can be applied to academic development in a higher education environment. The team are confident that the early gains can be repeated in other areas and look forward to embracing Cotter's approach further.
Okay. Do you enjoy listening to Graham there? Thank you, Graham. So, if you want to join in, plenty of interesting projects will be continuing over the coming year. The current associates, I talked to every one of them over the summer, they're happy to carry on, even though it's a little bit of extra. As you heard there, that's one of the challenges. People feel that it's worthwhile because it's about being part of moving things forward without getting tied up too much in some of our bureaucratic systems. You can leave that to me. I will try and sort that out. But what we want are people who are willing to bring ideas to the table and willing to perhaps just go that little bit of an extra mile. So I'll just kind of whiz through these because I know we're kind of just over time now. More details will be coming out in Campus Talk today, so look out for that. So we have strands around assessment and feedback this coming year. Jane Richardson is a key contact there. Not only the online assessment initiative that we're pushing forward, but we're really interested in folk who can share practice around inclusive assessment, more flexible assessment, etc. Employability, you probably guessed, is going to be a big piece of work for us. We will have a more formal employability working group, but we also want a network of people who will be able to, again, share practice, perhaps move forward some interesting things on the ground in terms of working with students. So those two things can kind of dovetail together. We're also looking at, and some of you have been involved in this, our scale-up approach to teaching. So the scale-up teaching space will be open hopefully next week. Will be open next week. Linda's saying yes, it will be open next week. We had a group of 12-15 members of staff who went across to Nottingham Trent University on Friday to look at their scale-up facilities and take part in a workshop. So you'll be hearing about this over the coming year. Talk to Colin if you want to know more. Of course, we're having a big push around digital capability. We're really keen to know if you are a digital enthusiast. Enthusiasm is the main thing we want, basically, just digital enthusiast. Contact Colin, contact Anne, contact Alicia. We're looking at developing some Moodle mentors to help people with that and various other initiatives. And then a new initiative, carrying on from some work that Katie started over the past year. Katie Brute started this. We're just trying to scale this up a little bit more, is around peer guiding, peer mentoring for students. So again, if you're interested in that, Caroline Hughes and Julie Brake will be taking that forwards. Just in closing, today and tomorrow is there's a big focus on digital capability. It's not all about the digital, but we do have a big focus. And I wanted to just remind you of how you can get involved. So right here, right now in B20, we have the Confidence Cafe. This is our digital drop-in zone. If you're an academic, you can drop in, talk about your course pages, talk about your web profile. It doesn't need updating. You can actually go and do that. If you've got general IT questions, go and drop in. We'll be running our VLE Essentials course again over the coming year. Talk to Colin or Anne or Alicia if you want to know more. Our learning lunches will be showcasing best practice around digitally enhanced teaching and learning. Our assessment transformation team is going to be set up by Jane, again to support all aspects of assessment and feedback, but with a focus on the digital as well. I've talked about scale up, and then a couple of things coming through from JISC, a new JISC discovery tool, a little bit of detail there, and we're also, over the next couple of months, we'll be getting involved in a Pan-Wales JISC Learning Analytics project. Again, this will help us to gather information, again, to support retention, but also to support achievement in terms of our students. So, in summary then, these are our key priorities. Let's work together to develop a even more holistic approach to student retention. Let's move forward with our approaches to teaching, learning and assessment. Let's improve our curriculum relevance with a particular focus on graduate employability. And let's really think about how we are collecting and responding to student feedback, particularly around that student evaluation of module, which gives us that early indication of any problems. And I really hope that we can count every one of you in terms of moving things forward over the coming year. Thank you very, very much indeed.